So I realized the other day that I have never really told you guys my why. I've never really told you why I do real estate, why I got into this, why I care. Like, I've never really told you that. Okay, so I bought a house in 2015 and it was my first house. I honestly knew I always wanted to buy a house. I never thought I'd buy a house that young, but I was like, I rented for 6 months in an apartment, got married to my husband, and then I ended up renting for a year in a house. And I was like, why am I wasting this money on rent? Like, this doesn't make any sense to me. I always had like in my brain that buying a house was the way to go. And so when it came time for us to renew our lease, I was like, we have to make this happen. We have to make this a reality. My husband didn't understand. He didn't realize that, how much money was being wasted on rent and how much wealth there was in real estate. It was just something that he never had thought of. It was just something that most people don't think of, honestly. But I was like, we're doing this, like, we're making this happen. I always have a lot of people like, I can't buy a house. I don't have enough money. I have always rented. My parents have always rented. They're just not in the mindset to want to make home buying a reality. I, had rented a 2-bedroom little house. I had 2 kids, and they were sharing a room. We were just found the cheapest rent we possibly could so that we could live there for a year so we could save up the money we needed to buy the house. Even then, it was a stretch for us. I'm not going to pretend like it was an easy thing. We didn't qualify for like down payment assistance or anything like that. And so it was definitely a stretch, but it was a stretch that was 100% worth it. So we ended up buying a house. We looked at way too many houses, but we ended up buying a house that we love, something that needed a little bit of updating and something that was in a really, really good neighborhood, a safe area for our kids, school district we loved. We knew we could change things about the house, but you can't really change things about the area. I mean, location, you can't just pick up the house and move it. So we knew we would rather find a house that maybe needed a little bit of work than find a house that had been completely redone that wasn't in an area that worked for our family and our lifestyle. So we found the house we wanted, and we have lived there for 2015. So I think we closed like January 1st or January 2nd. So technically it was 2016 when we closed. So we've lived there since then. And honestly, right now, we have a good amount of equity. We would have never had that if we would have continued to rent, if we wouldn't have scraped by for a year, if we wouldn't have done whatever it was that we had to do to come up with that money. We'd still be stuck in the cycle of renting a house, paying our money to our landlord, and building their wealth instead of our own. So looking back, it was 2016, later in the year, whenever I decided to get my real estate license. I honestly just loved the process of it, and I loved the idea of buying something that belonged to me and that I wasn't paying somebody else's mortgage. I wasn't, like I said, building wealth for someone else's family. I just loved the idea of being able to live there, be in a consistent home for my kids, because I moved around a lot as a kid and I didn't want that for them. So I wanted to be able to stay somewhere consistent and build wealth as we live there. So I ended up getting my real estate license. I was in a job I didn't love, and I just love the process. And so I really, really just wanted to help people. So I ended up getting my real estate license, and the rest is kind of just history. I seriously enjoy this job. I enjoy helping people. I enjoy people coming to me and asking me questions, and working with people, even people that like they never thought that buying a house was in their future. They never thought that someone that came from their upbringing or someone that had been through what they've been through could even purchase a house. I love being like, you can do this, and I'm here to help. Generational wealth isn't something that just comes from, renting and working paycheck to paycheck. Generational wealth is something that comes from getting into something like a house and building up that equity. Instead of paying off someone else's mortgage, you're paying off your own and building that equity up and, doing the renovations or doing the upgrading as you go. And then all of a sudden you turn around and you're ready to move and you have $100,000, $200,000 in equity that you can then have. Like, imagine being able to scrape by to buy your first house. You live there for 2 years. and then you turn around and you all of a sudden have $50,000 for your next house, and you can put that down and you can buy down the rate, and you can, get in for pretty much the same payment you were paying on your current house. Maybe a little bit more so you can upgrade, get more space, get in a better area, whatever it is. But like, you would have never had that if you would have just rented for 2 years. In fact, you'd be negative because you've been paying $1,000, $2,000 in rent every single month. That's what, $24,000 a year that you're negative, instead of being up 50 grand or whatever it is at the end of those 2 years. I just am very passionate about this. I'm very passionate about getting out of, generational curses, and getting out of a mindset where you feel like you don't deserve the next step in life, and you don't deserve anything good. And I just really, really am passionate about helping people that never thought that they could be a homeowner, or helping people that maybe bought a starter home but had a bad situation happen or whatever, and they didn't think they could ever be a homeowner again. Or people who have been saving their whole entire life and now all of a sudden they get to buy a house. Like, I'm so passionate about it. And, whenever I get to sit there, and whenever somebody's ready to move or ready to sell, whether they're downsizing or moving across the state, moving across the country, I just love being able to be like, you're going to take home more money than you've probably ever held in your hand, just from paying for the house that you've been living in. Like, I just am so passionate about it. And so I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of a backstory about where I come from, who I am, why I do what I do. And I just appreciate you guys following along my journey and watching my videos. And if you guys ever have any questions, want any kind of help with getting into a house, or curious about what your house is worth, or anything like that, feel free to ask in the comments. You can search me out and message me or whatever, but make sure to ask your questions, because no question is a dumb question. Like, I have the answers. If your credit isn't all the way there, if you're trying desperately to save up a down payment and you don't know how much you need to save, if you have a family that never bought a house and you don't even know where to start, you don't understand what that means, it's not something that was in your horizon, like, I'm here to tell you that it is probably one of the best things you could ever do for your family. And I'm here to help. So ask away.